On today's show, we are joined by the wonderful Lauren, an expert in human design and a life coach dedicated to helping people align with their purpose. In the conversation, we will explore how understanding your human design can transform your approach to life, work, and all relationships. Lauren will share her insights on how human design can bring clarity and peace in this fast-paced world, guiding us towards living a more authentically and purposefully life. Now, if you'd really like to support Sacred You, please hit that subscribe button, give us a like, or check us out at www.sacredu, that's the letter U, .love for more valuable resources. May you enjoy the conversation and have a wonderful day. Welcome to the Pathways of Wellbeing podcast. And with me today is the beautiful Lauren. Thank you, Lauren, so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem. I'm really excited. I really want to get to know you, and I really want to get to know, I'm really interested in the topic, all things wonderful about, or to know all things about human design and how we can live our purpose. So I'd love to start off, Lauren. First of all, please tell us a little bit about you. And I'd love to know how did you get into human design?
Yeah, so I am a life coach. I use human design, the Akashic records, a bunch of different modalities to really support people in their healing as well, and to get in alignment with their purpose. And before I even learned about human design, I actually was a previous behavioral therapist that worked with the neurodiverse community for a little over 10 years. And so when the pandemic hit, that's when I transitioned from that career into my life coaching business. And I just realized human design, it was like a really nice bridge to the shift of the type of clients that I was ready to work with. Because clients with who are neurodiverse, they have very specific needs. And human design really showed me like, wow, we are all designed so uniquely, so differently. This is not what culture, society has allowed us to really contemplate. And so human design, it's so powerful, it's so beautiful, and it takes time to really contemplate your design and how to step into your purpose. And I think there was like a catalyst for me, especially when I learned about my design. I had just moved to Austin, Texas. It was the beginning of 2018, and I was listening to a podcast, and this woman was talking about human design. And I had started learning about like astrology, and I was into that mysticism and the cult stuff. And I'm like, ooh, human design, what is this? I want to know what I am. And so I looked up my free chart, and I found out I was this thing called a projector. And I was like, when we don't know something and we don't understand something, our mind like kind of freaks out and it might jump to the worst case scenario. And I'm like, a projector? What? I don't project. And then so I started learning about what it meant to be a projector. And the first thing we always learn about is our strategy and our inner authority. And with a projector, they get to wait for the invitation before they're sharing their wisdom. And my mind at that time was very conditioned. I had been living a not self generator, a manifestor for most of my life. I was being a projector, our theme is success. So we're like success driven. However, if we're operating in our not self, which is like the conditioning, it's a self that is not full of joy. It's not really being in alignment with our true self. And so my ego was like, in this fast-paced world, how am I supposed to wait? If I want things to manifest, if I want to get things done, like, how am I supposed to wait? And even though I really resonated with what they were saying about what a projector is We're here to wait. We're here to be recognized for our gifts, for our insight, to help other people move more efficiently. I just had it in my mind. It just wasn't possible at that time. And when I put that to the side, the universe was like, I gave you this information for a reason. If you're not going to use it, you're going to get all the evidence as to why your ways don't work anymore. And so when I was being ignored at my old corporate career job, when my ideas were being stolen, that's like a very projector theme of when we're living in our not self. When the environment was just not feeling great for me, I realized I had all these ideas, but they weren't being invited. And I was like, okay, let me just try this on for a little bit. Let me just see what happens if I wait and I don't interject and I don't offer my insight and guidance without that recognition and invitation. And it was the most strangest thing that I witnessed up until then, where I realized, oh my gosh, I have all this energy returning back to me. And so that was the start of my journey with human design and how I found it.
Isn't it amazing? Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to go more into your journey, especially to where you are now. But can we go back just a little bit, especially for everyone who's watching or listening, who really doesn't know about human design, and it's starting to become much more popular now. But can you just explain in layman's terms what really is human design and what can people use it for?
Yeah, that's a really good question because some people will be like, I have no idea what a projector is. What are you talking about the nuts? So it's really important to know the basics and have that good foundation. So human design is a nine-centered system that was channeled by its founder, Ra Uru, in 1987. It's a combination of the Kabbalah, astrology, the I Ching, and I'm blanking on another system that it's correlating with. But it's basically analyzing who you are the moment that you were born, the moment that your soul was like, okay, I'm signing up for this life on earth at this specific time, at this specific date, boom. And it's analyzing your DNA through this system, specifically how you are here to operate on earth, what your energy type is, and there's 5 different types. So let's go over the types. You can either be a projector, which is a non-energy type, meaning you do not have a defined sacral, meaning that you have inconsistent life force energy. And we can get more into what that means later, but I'm just gonna give a brief of what human design is. Then we have the manifestor. The manifestor is about 9 to 10% of the population. They're here to not wait. They're the only types that when they lean into their inner authority, how they make decisions, they get to inform and initiate. And boom, I'm here. This is what I'm creating. This is the mantra for manifestors are just do it, like Nike. They're here to create. Then we have the energy types, which is about 70% of the population. This is a huge conditioner for most of the world. And that's the generators and the manifesting generators. And they have that consistent energy. It's like when they wake up in the morning, they're here to work, they're here to do what really brings them satisfaction. And then when that is exhausted, then they're like, okay, I'm ready to go to bed, refuel, and then start my day again. The thing with energy types, though, is they've been so conditioned to use their energy in ways that frustrate them and they actually don't really want to use it. And so that's why human design is so important for every type, because they get to know how to use their energy correctly for them. And then the last type we have are the reflectors. They're like the unicorns of the types. They're only 1% and they're here to sample life. Their aura is like Teflon. And so they're here to reflect back their environment and the people they're around.
It's amazing, isn't it? Especially when we know our human design and can use it. And in that, how can we use human design in to help us in relationships, in business, just in our day-to-day life?
Human design has given me so much peace and healing and understanding with my relationships alone. It answered so many questions as to the different tension I would have with people, the pain, the hurt before, the things that we don't really understand. And if we can look at our relationships in human design. Actually, you can take your chart and put it together with somebody else, and then that creates its own chart, its own energy. And so you look at the compromises that you might have with somebody else, where that will be the most tension. What brings you in attraction to somebody else? The electromagnetics you share, the things you have in common with each other, the friendships, I'm blanking on the word right now. It's like a friendship channel. It's the same gifts you share. And then you see where there might be amplified problems if you guys don't have definition in a specific center. And so for me, it answered so many questions about my family, about my relationships with my friends, my exes. And in human design, we realize it's not personal. It really is aura mechanics. And what aura mechanics means is it's just our energy. It's just how we uniquely operate. And then seeing how somebody else uniquely operates and not taking it personal. In human design, it shows us how to love each other correctly. It's not projecting what you want somebody else to be, because that's not fair. And it's not like we know any better, but with this system now we can, and we can say, oh, this is who someone's true self is. And so, yeah, I might want them to be this and that, but if you can love somebody and accept them correctly as their design, you give someone a huge gift, and you can have the most successful relationship with somebody according to their design and your design. And that's what self-love is really about, is accepting yourself and using human design and using these different tools. And in business, it's the same thing. It's using human design in business of how I'm supposed to operate in business, because we're all designed to operate differently. What gates are prominent for business, how they really stand out, and then what happens when you're in a small business, a large corporation, and what's going to pop for you and then your other business associates. And that way you're placing people in the roles that they're designed to, and it will flow better. And then seeing maybe, oh, this person's a projector, so I'm going to put them in this position. Or we don't have somebody who has this channel. Let me tap into my network and see. And so it's amazing. It's really fascinating.
Now, you mentioned gates. Tell us more about gates. What are gates and how can we use them?
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question. So we want to look at channels and gates. A channel is like for projectors, that's their life force. That's what they're here to be recognized for. And a channel connects two centers together. So if you look at your chart and you look at your definition, you're going to see lines that connect one center to another. And you really want to learn and dive into what these channels mean for you, because that's where you're going to be recognized. And then a gate is just, we call it a hanging gate. And it's not the full channel, it's just a gate that is hanging off a center. And so, depending on if it is hanging off an undefined or a defined center, you will experience that energy. So, if it's hanging off an undefined center, you'll experience that energy and its themes inconsistently, versus if it's hanging off a defined center, meaning it's colored and you have that constant definition and energy, you'll still experience that energy, but it's going to be looking for the other hanging gate that makes that channel. For example, I have a hanging gate 11 off my defined ajna, meaning that's like where your third eye is up here. It's all about beliefs, ideas. And so the hanging gate 11 is all about ideas. However, I don't have the 56, and that full channel is the storyteller. And so my 11 is looking for the 56. And so when I find somebody who has a 56, we can exchange stories and talk because the 56 is off the throat. And so that's how that works.
Very interesting, isn't it? Really, you can go into human design, it's a whole different language. What I'd love to know more about human design is it similar to astrology? You know, how astrology changes so much with the planets that move and everything else, and people really believe and experience, not just believe, but experience that the planets impact our emotions so much. But yet we can change our emotions. We still have, now I'm thinking of what, we're still not controlled, but we still have choice. We still have choice. So is human design very similar to astrology? Do we still have choice in what happens in our life? Or is it pretty much well defined depending on our chart?
So I think that's just a really personal, that's something that's going to be personal and based on somebody's truth through their experience. According to Raw Human Design, we have no choice, but I think I don't quite agree with that. Human Design, somebody's chart and their design never changes. And astrology is part of human design too, because we will have like our gates in specific planetary positions and then the transits. So the transits are like astrologies. And so we'll be influenced by the transits that move through these things called a neutrino stream. And so they will influence our design. We're taking the neutrino stream, the astrology forecast, and it's like creating a relationship chart in its own. And so, depending on if somebody's very open, it might influence their personal design and how the astrology is changing. It will definitely for a reflector. Reflectors are lunar, they're lunar beings. So, it's really important that they lean more into the transits, the astrology, because it will really help them with just navigating their changes because the moon changes every 10 hours in the transits. And so that could be probably like pretty confusing because they're so sensitive. They're open, they don't have any definition in their chart. And so with it's just so unique for each type because somebody who is an emotional being, meaning that their inner authority is emotional, which is 50% of the population, that's how they make decisions, by really leaning into their emotions. And you can't rely on your emotions instantaneously. That's not how it works with human design. And people who have emotional authority, they will, and I'm sure you can relate to this being an emotional generator, when you make your decision based on how you're feeling in the moment, you pay the consequence after. You really get to ride your emotional wave and then wait at least 24 to 72 hours for big decisions, because then you're going up the highs and the lows, and then you have a little bit of that emotional stillness, and then you can make those big decisions. But if somebody has sacral intuition, which is gut intuition, they're designed to have that knowing now. But if they're not listening to their gut and they're in their head, that's going to disconnect them from their intuition. So it's just so different for each type. And that's why strategy and our inner authority, really building that foundation first of the basics, is so important when you're starting your design and your experiment.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if we all lived our human design, if we all knew it and really practice it day by day? And in saying that, tell us, is there any outcome or what would happen if someone lived their human design too rigidly, like too rigid?
Yeah, that's another really good question because I see this a lot. So we have been in this, we go through these global cycles. In the last 411 years, we've been in the cross of planning, meaning that it's all been about infrastructure, planning, the tribe, business, governments, banking, schools. And so with that, our minds have been in this intellectual download of, okay, I need to know it all. I want all this information. Now we're in a time where we are so obsessed with information and being in our mind that we're now shifting into the next global cycle that's called the angle cross of the sleeping phoenix. And this is going a little bit more in depth with human design, but this huge shift we're going through right now, we're shifting from one way of being into another, where it's okay, what worked before doesn't really work right now. And yeah, we're in an age of technology, artificial intelligence. You could know everything, but if you're not truly living it and practicing it and having fun and experimenting, doesn't matter what you know, that's not going to be as important. So with human design, I see this a lot. People will get so obsessed with the information. And yeah, it's good to know. As projectors, we're here to master systems. It takes us the longest for our aura type to really pop, and it's not instant gratification. So we really get to be patient with how we're downloading this information, how we're experimenting with it. I would not advise anybody to take on this experiment if they're looking for instant gratification. That's something that I will never be a proponent in the market. I think that's so out of integrity. And it's a disservice to people who I've seen this everywhere. Oh, if you want instant results and do this and that, it's just no, you have to do the work, you have to experiment, you have to surrender on the journey. That's what this life is all about. And so when you become so rigid, that's where the mind gets in. That's where the monkey mind gets in of like, oh, I'm doing all of this. And believe me, I'm saying this from experience. I know a lot about human design. I've taken a lot of different courses and certifications, and it's something that you have to live and experiment with and not have any attachments with it. And it really goes to the basics of, am I following my strategy and authority? And seeing what that draws into. And my life has completely shifted and transformed. And I've had to make a lot of uncomfortable decisions. I thought there were certain things that I would never have to do or choose, but it's really a soul journey. It's really an inner exploration at the deepest core of who you are. And that's what human design gives us. And we're so rigid with it, we're going to miss this amazing opportunity of just having fun with it, of seeing how am I being conditioned? Where am I going back into my not self? And it's an experiment. You will never get it perfect. And that's okay. And then you're going to draw in other opportunities to help you experiment with your design.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. It's amazing. It really is human design, to know it, to live it. Can you use human design as a predictive tool? Like, does it predict the future? Can we go into it and really predict our future?
No, I don't think so necessarily. We can look at certain things as to like your highest potential. So we can look at the south and the north nodes. The south node is where you enter in life, where you're coming from your past life, where you're entering into this life up until the age around 40. And then 40 till you're done here, that's your north node. And that's your highest potential. And that's where you're going. So you can look at the predictive there, and also your incarnation cross, which has to do with your purpose. And so it will never tell you like you will be here and this is where, this like the specifics. It will give you little glimpses of, this is where you came from, this is where you're heading, this is your purpose, this is what's really going to help you, this is where you're designed to really thrive. But it really comes through the choices that you make and what the universe brings to you and how you respond to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Thank you for sharing it. What about the past? Can human design help us heal our past?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has for me quite a lot. It gave me so many answers. My dad passed away over 5 years ago, and we had a hard relationship. And I didn't know about human design before he passed. And so when I started learning about human design, it gave me a lot of peace looking at our charts together. And all these questions that I had, it just made sense through it. And I was able to forgive myself, forgive him, and just not take things as personally when I'm like, this was just who he is. I have something very concrete in front of me that's helping me explain our dynamics.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, especially with family and things. It can help heal or understand relationships and then
Absolutely.
stuff. So we take away, I'm assuming it takes away the expectations of other people when
Mhm.
we really know where they're coming from or how they're designed to be in this world.
Absolutely.
And is there anything else that you would like to share about human design? Like, how does it help you in your day-to-day life? Do you actually use it as a daily tool?
Hmm. Yeah, so I do. My design is very different from what you see just in Western culture. I'm in America, I live in California. We are a very fast-driven culture. Thing you have to go out and get it. If you wait, if you don't do anything, you're lazy, you're this, you're that, you're missing out. So my design is if I'm trying to force something, if I keep moving, I sabotage myself. I'm a mental projector. I don't have any motors, meaning that my crown, ajna, and throat are defined. So I'm designed to really laser in to guide people. And I'm not designed for instant manifestation. I'm here to wait. I'm here to do my motivation. So motivation is how we're motivated to manifest. And my motivation is really about waiting. It's about hoping for the best and doing nothing in the process until those right invitations come in. And that was something very hard to adjust to with so much conditioning around. And it's in a lot of different, not just business, not just, it's everywhere of hard work, of you need to do this. And human design is such an amazing tool where it brings me back to I'm being conditioned. I'm not listening to myself, which is my inner authority. I really get to listen to myself and trust my inner knowing. And the more that I can relax and take care of myself and hope and not worry, my aura draws things into me. And that's the power of a projector. And we haven't seen that being promoted as much and accepted yet. But this is what projectors need to experiment with. Some projectors can be energy projectors, meaning that they'll have a motor defined or maybe several motors defined. But if they're not giving themselves the rest they need, the sleep they need, that self-care they need, they're going to go into burnout really easily. We are such sensitive beings because of how we absorb and penetrate other people's energy. We don't have a buffer. We take in everything because we laser and because we're here to guide people. And so we need to take really great care of ourselves. And it helps me every day when my monkey mind is saying, because it will say all the not self stuff. Oh, you didn't do enough today. Oh, you need to post on your social media. You need to keep running your business so people like know what you're doing and this and that. And it's all this craziness. So it just helps me observe more and be like, okay, that's the conditioning. Okay, let me check in with myself. Okay, am I tired? Okay, let me take a nap. Or let me like light some incense, pull some tarot cards, meditate, whatever I need. And I can't tell you how many times where when I was in that place or really just doing nothing and happy, things come in way faster than me trying to create something. And yeah, I will put stuff out there and share when I have that energy and I feel really inspired. But if it's not there, I won't force myself.
Can you create that energy?
I've I've experimented with that and it's just for me personally, have, because with projectors, we have different ebbs and flows of energy. So it's just really riding those ebbs and flows. And if I'm in an ebb, and if I try to push myself out of that ebb, it's resistance. And so I just get to surrender and see, okay, we'll come back. Right now, I really just need to be in that receptivity.
And to go with it and to go with the flow. I can see how really knowing your human design, especially if you're a projector for everyone, but to really know that and to just to trust and to have faith. And as you said, to surrender to that moment with the energy flow. So thank you. And I was going to ask is, can you use human design and integrate them with other spiritual practices, which obviously.
Absolutely. That's what I do. So I have another spiritual practice that, my human design, it brought it to me. That's what I was touching on before. It's like other healing modalities, our design will bring to help us, because I see this a lot in the human design community where people just go based off the information, but they're not doing additional healing work or other practices that really help them through their deconditioning process. And a deconditioning process is just what you're unlearning, and that doesn't work for you anymore. And so I use this meditation practice every day to really help me with my spirituality, with my healing, with my letting go. And sometimes that changes with other things, but this is what I'm currently focusing on.
Thank you. Thank you for that. What about for someone who's feeling a little bit stuck? And we're talking about using human design for our purpose, but for someone who's not knowing what their purpose is at the moment and they're disconnected from all of that energy, and how can we really look at our human design to help us find our purpose?
So your purpose will always be connected to your incarnation cross, but I also always tie it to what somebody has gone through. What has somebody grown through? What has somebody really healed through their pain? That is always going to be part of their purpose, 100%, whatever their incarnation cross is. So, for example, let's say somebody had alcoholism in their family and they suffered from what that did to them, and whether they were alcoholic or not, and if they got sober or if they healed the effects of what that did to them. And then they can be that example of, I no longer drink, or I've forgiven this in my family. And so that can be tied to their purpose as well. Or if somebody was born with a unique gift that is that they might have endured some trauma around from other people that don't understand it, and then they stand in that power of being that example of, I love myself so much and I didn't let society or these people take that away from me. That's always so inspirational to be in for somebody's purpose. And then looking at your incarnation cross to see how that shows up with the specific gates, because your incarnation cross will be in your personality sun, earth, and then your design sun and earth. And it will show on your free chart. You can always download a free chart, and it will say incarnation cross, and then it will give you the type of incarnation cross you have. You can always look it up online, but it's so personal how it shows up for you.
Okay, would you like to give any examples as such? For example, I am, if I can ask while we're here, I'm a
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a tension 3.
Okay, right angle cross of tension. So right angle cross of tension, they're here to, it's how it sounds. It's to give that tension, to provide that tension for change.
Yes.
And it's like providing the right sort of, because it's one of the gates is provocation. And so the shadow can be like, the provoker, but at the same time, it's asking the right questions. When you see something that's off and you're like, wait a second, and then it's creating, and it's you're experimenting with it because it's more so of single cross is about your personal journey and other people learning from it. And so you being the example of providing that right tension for people to wake up and be like, oh, wait, she's so right. I didn't see that before. How did I not see that before? Does that resonate with you?
That resonates quite a lot, because I really feel that one of my purposes here is not to provoke people intentionally, right? I really don't go out and do that, but I'm here to help bring things up for people that they don't see.
Exactly. Exactly. And being a 4-6, your support, your network, because the 4 is all about your network, right? And so it's like the people that are in your network, your family, your friends, that's who you're designed to give that and be that for. And then the 6 is about the role model. So you're that living example and you're modeling that for them.
Thank you for sharing that about me. And for anyone else who is listening or watching our podcast today, if you want to know what your model is, what your human design is, one is, as you said, Lauren, you can check it out on the web. You can download your human design chart for free. But also, much better is to come and connect with you. So you help people understand their human design.
Absolutely. It's such an honor and it's such a joy.
And they can contact you online.
Yeah, so you can go to my website. That's mytransfiguration.com. It lists all my services. You can book with me. If you want to connect on social media, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. My business, Instagram and Facebook, are Transfiguration Coaching. Or if you want to connect with me on my personal page, that's just Lauren Wenzell.
Thank you. And of course, all your links will be below our conversation. And before we wrap up, can I ask you to, because you're so much more than just human design expert, right? As you said, you're a coach, a coach.
Transfiguration Coaching.
But also Akashic Records. How do you bring Akashic Records into human design?
So when somebody wants to do one-on-one coaching and have like more of a long-term goals to really focus on, I always connect with people and see what they want to focus on. If they just primarily want to focus on human design, because some people just want that, or if they really want to dive more into like self healing and really explore like who they are on a soul level, a human design level. And the Akashic records, they're really powerful of clearing past life blockages, finding out your soul gifts, because this is a different modality. And human design sort of mirrors some of that with, because we have gifts. If we look at gene keys, it's more of like the spiritual aspect of human design and looking at the gates through the shadows, the gifts, and the highest expression. Whereas Akashic Records is more clearing and energetic work that we get to do together, where I will locate somebody's soul gifts, their soul information, see what certain past life blockages are showing up now, and we clear them together, and then we just work on new action steps so that that new energy that's coming in, we want to use that and really use that to the advantage of what their gifts are. So for example, my soul gifts are all about harmony. It's about balance. It's about having things in order. And before I knew anything about my soul gifts, what this thing of Akashic records were, I lived very chaotically. So when I hired my first spiritual coach and she told me this, I was like, I think you got it wrong. I think I'm actually this. And she's like, but what happens when you live in harmony? What happens? Because my room would always be a mess. I was very disorganized, but it was all coming from trauma, right? That's how I was coping. And so she's like, what happens when you have a clear space and you do decide to organize and clean? I'm like, well, I actually feel really good when that happens, you see? And so sometimes when we're just learning about who we truly are, our ego will resist it because we have been living somebody else as somebody else because that's who we thought we needed to be to survive, to be accepted, to be loved, whatever our survival patterns have taught us. And so with going into the Akashic records, you see what happened with certain past lives, how it's just not this life that it's influencing you. And then leaning into your gifts of what really support you. Like for me, drama is like kryptonite. And some people will really be like, oh, you need to speak your truth and you should do this and fight against this. And it's just like, for me, if I disengage, things rapidly change. So it's just so unique and it's a very powerful work. And so having these different modalities and integrating them together, it's so amazing. It's such a gift you can give yourself. Like you will heal so much karma in your life. Like I couldn't recommend it enough.
Thank you. And Lauren, before we say farewell for today's episode, is there anything else that I could have asked you? Anything else that you would like to share?
Human design, it just has so many different layers as to where you can look, where you can go, and answers so many different questions. And if you're just starting out, I would really recommend you experimenting with the basics first. Don't overwhelm yourself with thinking you need to learn about all the different gates and channels and this and that and the centers, and just take it as slowly as you need to go. Really digest the information, experiment with it, be with the questions of what does this mean to live as my type? I know a lot of people who have emotional authority, 50% of the population. So that's half of people who are living, who are so disconnected from just tuning into their emotions and trusting them. If 50% of the population gave themselves permission to really listen and undig, because I see this, they have suppressed and buried their emotions so deep to survive. They rely on logic, or if they have a defined sacral, they'll rely on their sacral. But if they just gave themselves permission to lean into their emotions and be patient and not try to force, the world would radically change. The world would radically change and so much would heal, because then us empaths who don't have a defined emotional center wouldn't be amplifying all the craziness, all the suppressed emotions. And we could actually just receive, because that's the beauty with the open and the undefined centers, is we receive and we witness there. And somebody who I thought I was the most emotional person in the world. And when I found out I was non-emotional, I was like, well, what does that even mean? And so this system, it gives us so many answers, and it gives us so much freedom to see where we're taking on other people's energies and then where we might be influencing other people.
Okay.
But
Just 1 second, Lauren. Sorry. Luckily, we can cut that out. Sorry to interrupt you. You just froze.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how much we missed because you froze for a good few seconds.
Okay.
So you were talking about if, as a projector, that you absorb, as an empath, that's right. You're mentioning as an empath, and that you absorb all the energy.
Yeah. So with just the emotional beings giving themselves permission, because the emotional beings are here to, even if they have their motors defined or they have that motor defined, they still get to move slowly with their emotions. And so it's just giving themselves permission to really lean into them, not let them either be stuffed down, take them over, whatever, and just experimenting with that. And then the empaths, the people who are non-emotional, who don't have this center defined, just giving them this information of, okay, I'm amplifying this energy. I'm distorting this energy. This isn't mine. The planet would change 100%.
It would dramatically, wouldn't it? Imagine what would happen if all our politicians and everyone else and all our leaders really knew about human design and followed it.
I think we're in a time where leadership is changing. We're in a shift where we are valuing people who are in integrity, who consider everybody. And this illusion, this facade now is really fading away. And we're seeing how people really are. And so now it's time for people who are heart-centered, who really care about people, not just from their own agenda. It's like now the baton gets to be passed.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on A Pathway to Wellbeing, because I can really see how human design, if we know it and and practice it, use it as a tool, can help us live our life on purpose, but a life of complete well-being in all areas of our lives. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much for that. It has been a pleasure. And
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And do come back and join us again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the Pathways to Wellbeing podcast, where we had the pleasure of learning about human design from the incredible Lauren and how it can help us align with our true purpose. We do hope this conversation has sparked curiosity and empowered you to explore how you can live your life more authentically. Reach out to Lauren on the below links if you would like to know more. And if you found value in today's episode, please hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and share this podcast with someone who would benefit from this insightful discussion. You are also welcome to check us out at www.sacredu, that's the letter U, .love for more valuable tools, resources, and empowering connections. As you continue your journey, remember to trust in your unique design, honor your purpose, and embrace the process of self-discovery. Stay empowered, stay inspired, and we will see you next time.